welcome to Tarmac. I'm Dave.
I'm Matthew, and today we are going back to the fundamentals of driving fun. And what better way to take us there than this, the Toyota GR86.
That's right, it's the GR86, a car so good it should be called the Great-E-6. Anyway, come let's take a look at this. Although this is the second generation Hashiroku, or 86 as they like to say, I'm so in tune with my Japanese side. This is actually the fourth member of the Gazoo Racing family for Toyota. So you've got the Corolla, you've got the Yaris, you've got the Supra, which is a co-developed product with BMW, and then you've got this, the GR86, which is a co-developed product, as you probably know, with Subaru. But for this latest generation, or this second generation, what they've done is they've made it longer and lower, and also harpened on to some of their old sort of ancestral Toyota products, so like the old Corolla and also the 2000 GT. So there's a lot going on in its styling and also in its poise, but also just the fact that it's still bringing through the first generation, the GT, which actually began in 2012, and plunked it into this really raw, easy to drive and easy to get on with, no frills type of vehicle. Looking around the front here, you've got a nice long bonnet, you've got the Toyota badge, some nice, I would assume they're actually halogen headlights, but they're headlights nonetheless, and it's a very good look from there. Also functional, although it's marginal, a functional air vent down the bottom here, but better looking nose, 86, and the big thing is the fact that it is GR, so Gazoo Racing. So aside from the long bonnet, it's actually got a lovely sloping roofline down here, and it's more aerodynamic than ever. So it actually now boasts an aerodynamic drag coefficient of 0.276, so it slips through the air really well. The wheels here are 18-inch, and look at this, really nice texture, and the brakes are now bigger, so bigger discs going to stop this car a lot quicker than, actually it stops really quick anyway. Our review model is in what they're calling Spark Red. Don't know what that means, but then I don't know what many car company names are for their car colors, but anyway, and contrast well with these lovely mirror caps here. The other thing is, got to bring this out, these are functional black air outlet wheel arch stuff. Anyway, there's a big long name that I could probably bring down to a really small hyphen, but anyway, what it is these are actually letting air out, which obviously adds to that drag coefficient. Looking as we go further down, door handles that do stick out, so actually you could probably get another point something out by making them flush, but nice bit of privacy glass, because actually you can see what's going in there, but nothing's going on in the back seat, believe me. And yeah, actually more 18-inch wheels at the back with Michelin rubber, so plenty of stuff to, actually it doesn't stick to the road that well. It actually makes sure that this tail end wags really nicely. Look at me doing that. Anyway, let's look around the rear end. What we have here is a lovely boot spoiler, or what they call a ducktail spoiler, so it sticks out really nicely here. Toyota badging, the all-important GR badging for the 86 from there. LED tail lights, and also, actually when you open up the boot, when I find the button, there you go, 226 litres of sort of boot space that's not overly practical, but good for actually a weekend away or something like that. Something else that's good is the twin exhausts that are really working. Look, you got that. You can see that they work really well, and they lead to what's under the bonnet. So let's go there. Okay, on to the big part of the collaboration between Subaru and Toyota, and actually it's written on the top here. The problem with the GT, or one of the biggest issues with the GT, was that the engine wasn't quite powerful enough. So what they've done is they've upped it. So this is now a 2.4 litre flat 4, and it actually fits really well and snugly under this bonnet here. what it provides is 174 kilowatts of power, which is an increase of 22 kilowatts, and 250 newton meters of torque, which is actually around about 30 odd newtons more. So more power going to those rear wheels, which is exactly what you want.
Once you've clambered onto the inside of this GR86, and it is a little bit of a task even for someone as young and sprightly as me. Once you're in here, you'll find that the seats really sort of keep you nice and snug, which is just as well when you're going around corners and having the tail, you know, sliding out, although we would never do that, of course. Back to the seats, they are actually a combination of ultra suede, which is what makes up most of the seat backs and the bottom, and you do get some leather trim highlights around the side as well. You'll notice that there is a lot of red going on in this cabin, and that's because the red option for the interior has been ticked on this car. You can also have all the red bits in black if you're a little bit boring, but we like a little bit of color and excitement in our, so the red is the one that the press car has certainly been chosen for. And I think it does a really good job of highlighting all the sporty bits, not just the contrast stitching and the striping on the seats, but also the red carpeting and the red flashes on the doors and some more contrast stitching that goes on there. In fact, the carpets, the bright red carpets, are almost reminiscent of another Japanese sports car that comes to mind, something with an R as well, but I'm sure you can put two and two together there. In terms of the dashboard, well, it's got soft touch material on the top there, bit of scratchy plastics down the bottom as well as on the doors, but really you're not buying this car to go and touch and feel around the plastics, unless of course you've gone for the automatic option where that's your entertainment source. But as you can see here, what my arms have been resting on, this car does not have the automatic option. In fact, if we have the manual car here, it's the same price as the automatic, and this is a 6-speed manual transmission, where conversely you can also have a 6-speed auto as well. So proper manual transmission, the gear lever there, and a proper manual handbrake if you like over here as well. Couple of things to highlight down the middle here. That touchscreen there is literally just for your audio and sort of infotainment if you like. There's no customization of the car there. It's very much function just for the music and your tunes, and of course for your phone connectivity where it has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as well. Down the middle here, you'll notice that the air conditioning controls are all manual. They're all dials and buttons as well, something which we really like because it helps you feel more connected to the car instead of everything being, 2 or 3 screens removed from you. The other key thing is these buttons down here. Now you have 2 levels of seat heating for both the driver and passenger. Do note that the seats are fully manually adjustable. That means sliding on rails and pulling things to raise your height and all that stuff, as opposed to just buttons doing that for you. And again, the whole ethos of this car is to be a raw driver's car, so everything that they've done fits just in line with that. The other 2 key buttons are in front here, and those are ones you'll be probably pushing more often than the heating ones, because they are the traction control. You can obviously have that on or off, and then they have the drive modes where you can have the regular or you can have track, which adds a little bit of excitement to the drive, as we'll show you in a bit. But just before we go there, this is billed as a 4-seater car. It does say on the spec sheet that seats number is 4. So let's take a look as me and the cameraman Harry try and clamber into those back seats for your entertainment, of course. We are both plus or minus 6 feet, plus and minus. And what we're gonna do is try and sit behind each other in this GR86. So here we go. Yeah, I think this is probably more a 2+2 rather than a proper 4-seater. Although, let's ask Harry. Harry, are there isofix and tether points in the back there? Wow, alright, so you could get a child seat in the back if you so wanted to. Though not recommended. Good advice, Harry. But speaking of the back, you can actually reach for the steering wheel from there, which is what we're going to take a look at now. Now, in front of the driver, you've got a gauge cluster with plenty of information going on. So in the middle, your rev counter spins around the speedometer there, and on the right you have a temperature and a fuel gauge, which are permanent. They cannot be changed. However, the screen on the left, well, you can actually change that. So if I just exit that warning there, you can see my fuel efficiency. I can have a lap timer, my audio input, various settings of the car, and of course my messages and things. And within each screen you can actually scroll down and see more detailed information as well on various parameters. So there is plenty to play around with the screen in front of you. The key difference, however, is changing the mode. So if I go into track mode by pressing the button in the center console, you can see that the screen immediately changes to give me a more race style rev counter there with shift lights and a lap timer as well there preset, as well as my temperatures up there on the top left. So all the vitals are there, and it says track on the bottom of the screen as well. So plenty of information going on over there. And if you take a step back out, the steering wheel is covered in leather completely. You've got your buttons on either side. No adaptive cruise control. There is just standard cruise control, which is a little sort of stalk down the bottom there. But apart from that, purely it's just you in the car, and that's what we love about this GR86. So let's take it for a drive.
So the GR86, it's more powerful, more fun, and being a manual gearbox means you can do this. Which is just awesome. It's so much faster than before, and yet, as you can probably tell, it does kick its tail end out, but it's just so manageable. It's so predictable. In virtually every corner, you have that you're doing that fine line between losing the tail and also going in a straight line, but it's so understandable about what it's going, and it's just, as we've spoken about before, just so raw. It's a great fun car.
It is, back to basics Toyota with sports cars. It's you, the car, the manual gearbox. There's no sort of assist. There's no, nothing beeping and flashing at you and pulling you into lanes and stuff like that. It is literally just you and the car, and that's what's special about this.
Yeah, look, I know that there's a lot of the GT86s that have been modified and wider arches and, flared, and also, off cambers and all those sort of things. This is yet to happen, and I'm sure it will happen. But that, as actually we again spoke about this earlier, just how easily this car can be adapted to suit you and make it personalized for you. And there's so many kits that have been made for them that you can make it your own at any time. Absolutely.
That became, later on in its life, that became the biggest attraction point with the GT86, is young owners would buy them and modify them as they wanted. And this GR86 is from factory set up and designed so well, I think, that it can only get better from here for enthusiasts who will own this car later on. Because looks wise, I think it's a step up from the previous generation in its styling. You also get slightly wider tires. The car itself is stiffer now. The max torque now comes in at something like 3,700 RPM, whereas it was 6,500 RPM before. Plus the fact that you get 22 more kilowatts of power and that boost in torque as well. It's just all around a better car, I think.
It is. As far as drivability and everything goes, as Matthew touched on, it is a firm ride. So if you are on the open poor roads in New Zealand, it is quite noisy. It's also quite juddery and things like that. So, but that's what you want in an 86. I think it's a car that lets you know you're driving it, lets you know you're involved in it. Visibility wise, the windscreen's good. door mirrors are great, and actually looking through the rear mirrors is actually okay. The screen's okay, so that's really good as well. And one thing, I mean, obviously it's got the manual gearbox, of which I'm a big fan of, but it's got quite a tight gate, so you're not, I mean, nothing's really out of reach in this car anyway, but you're not stretching too far to get anywhere, as far as getting certainly from third to fourth or fifth to sixth. That you just use it your fingertip wise. It's really good.
And the gear lever itself is, well within reach of the driver. It's not too high, not too low. It just gives you that perfect position for grabbing those gears as you're going along corners and looking for the next one.
Yeah, it's funny you should say about the gear stick height. It's something I found in the Supra it was just a little bit tall. This seems to be just about right, one of those Goldilocks moments. It's just right for you. The other thing is, actually, speaking of the GI Supra, just the fact that the Supra is so much more refined than this vehicle, and this is like a rascal. It's the car that wants to be a racetrack car, and actually is a racetrack car, but without any of the refinements from the BMW association.
It definitely is more so a proper sort of racer as opposed to being a grand touring car, because you haven't got much boot space in the back. It's quite noisy and quite unrefined on a open pore road like we have so many of in New Zealand. And going on a long road trip in this would, I think, get to a certain point where it would become a little bit drony, especially that road noise. But then this car is not about that, just going on long, boring trips, from place to place. It's about getting from A to B as, how do I say this, as sideways as possible.
As if. And the good thing is about you don't have to take the family because there's no room for them anyway. And the note is great. There's a lovely, particularly when you start getting up into the 6,000 revs, the exhaust note cuts in really nicely. It speeds up well. It just delivers that power so smoothly. And I just wish my clutch control was better, to be honest.
Because of that, the lack of those extra luxuries like the leather insulation and some of those safety systems, they have kept the weight down on this, and you can really feel that I think especially when you pull out of a corner, and it's just got so much of go to it with that 2.4 liter flat 4. It's really an amazing car, especially for cornering.
Yeah, I'm a, as you can probably tell, big fan.
I mean, Toyota GR at the moment are really one of those companies where car enthusiasts are flocking to, because the 4 cars that they have on offer are so amazing. And the fact that in New Zealand the allocation for this GR86 is actually already sold out for 2023. And bear in mind that we're just sort of halfway through the year at this point. So if you want one, you have to wait until next year.
So there you have it, the new GR86. I can't speak about it without having a big smile on my face. It is raw. It's back to basics. It's like turning back the hands of time on a modern car, and just getting involved with a car that unleashes your driving spirit. It's fun. It hugs the road so nicely, and like I said, it's a joy to drive.
I think absolutely, as Dave said before, Toyota's GR department set out to do this kind of stuff, but we weren't really sure what they would put out, but look at the kind of stuff that they're making, and this GR86 is right up there with the best that they have to offer. And, as you saw before, it'll leave you grinning from year to year.
Excellent. I'm going to go and leave some rubber somewhere. Anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you next time. See you.